Welcome back, Mastercraft Gaming fans. Kyle here to bring you the first preview on the Uncharted Empires book. Today we're going to take a look at the highly anticipated Kingdoms of Men and their theme list, the League of Rhordia. Let's start off with the army special upgrade that both of these factions share, and that's the Indomitable Will. This purchasable upgrade for a unit is going to give them Inspiring on themselves and Fearless whenever the unit uses it. It also has an added benefit of essentially shaking off a wavering result if you happen to get that. So I really like that as an ability to purchase it, and if something just happens to pop up and you need to clear off the wavering, it's kind of like a headstrong built in. It inspires them as well. It gives them Fearless and just a bunch of different things for that one turn that really makes sure that they're going to stick around. Since in 2nd edition the very Inspiring rule was around for Kingdoms of Men, and it still is, it kind of gives you an idea that these guys want to be indomitable. I'm going to start off with one unit that remained mostly the same, but the game has changed around it. So this is the shield wall for Kingdoms of Men, and what I absolutely love about this unit is when you look at how the meta is sort of shifting and people are taking units for their armies that sort of fill out slots as much as possible. So you're seeing lots of, potential lists with hordes of zombies, scarecrows from Night Stalkers, that sort of thing that people want to flood the table with. Well, with Kingdoms of Men, they've got a unit in like something like the shield wall here where really low point cost that's similar to those style of units, but a significantly better profile. They're going to hit better, they're going to have a higher defense, and in my opinion, this is the perfect counter to those kinds of lists because you could flood the entire table with a unit like this and really take care of a lot of business. High nerve on them is really fantastic. So this is one where the unit maybe didn't change so much, but the game did and really kind of gave it a nice little boost. I think that a lot of people are going to find this as a great unlock unit, but something that's great about Kingdoms of Men as opposed to the other factions is that they've got a lot less of the irregular units that some of the other armies do in the rest of the game. So you'll see that many units give them the ability to unlock additional units, and some of those are the best in the entire list. So when we talk about the war engines available for them and the hero unlocks, Kingdoms of Men gives you the ability to flood the tables with units like this and then get tons of the other unlocks if you want to play that kind of a play style. Next up, we will do the Palace Foot Guard for the Kingdoms of Men. This is a unit that looks really similar to one that is getting a lot of attention in the elf list right now, hitting on 3s with 25 attacks, defense 5 on them. But the thing about Kingdoms of Men that I really like is that they are a wide open toolkit for you to customize the units. They give you so many different options that are built into the unit just based on the profile. So in this example, if you wanted to lower their defense down to 4 and get crushing strength 1 and make them right in line with the Palace Guard equivalent, that's not going to cost you any additional points. And then if you wanted to give them elite, you're essentially getting a discount on what the elves get for the same exact kind of unit. So this is something that I think a lot of people are going to enjoy because, again, with Kingdoms of Men, you have the ability to dip into those magical artifacts, I think more than any other faction. Because of the lower points cost, you can then customize all of your units in a really nice way. So these guys, I think, are going to be really popular just because even if you don't give them the crushing strength upgrade, you're going to have the ability to throw a Bane Chant on them if you wanted to, and 25 attacks on 3s is just really nice. So I'm talking just the Horde, but I even like the Regiment option here too. So still minimal changes from 2nd edition, but again, the game and how it changed around this unit is a really big deal. All right, next we're going to take at a unit that saw a little bit of a name change and named lovingly after everyone's favorite Facebook group. That would be the Fanatics. So these guys are still mostly the same with what they do, hitting on 3s, defense 3, and a load of attacks. The big advantage here now is that they have Wild Charge, obviously. So in a unit that normally only had speed 10, you're guaranteed to get just a little bit extra out of that. When you combine that with some magical items such as, giving them a bonus to their speed, for example, then they also are going to open up new options to that as well. They also have a new hero option, which I'm not going to preview, but just to let you know, there's a hero option that specifically goes with these guys, who's a Fanatic instigator. It's just essentially someone that is on Facebook and making a trolling post, reset the clock. So these guys, I think, are going to have a really nice place because even at that regiment with 15 attacks hitting on 3s and then the inlaid ability to reduce your opponent's defense is really nice. And then the points are just so nice on these guys because if you look at the other comparative units across the board, they're still just incredibly cheap and incredibly useful. So it's a toolkit that you can open up and use if you want to get all kinds of fun things, and especially if you have some wonderful units out there that you're using from historical armies, for example. Really good option for these guys. Something that I think a lot of Kingdoms of Men players wish that they had the ability to do was compete with more of the fantastical elements. One of the great options and iconic options for them is the General on Winged Beast. This guy saw some significant buffs because all of a sudden he's got an additional thunderous charge and a bonus to his attacks for no increase in costs. So this is something that I think a lot of people are going to find a lot of really nice use out of, especially because with that kind of a speed and nimble built into it, 7 attacks is nothing to scoff at, especially when you can fit this thing into some really tight spaces and open up some flanks. So with rules like Indomitable Will, you don't have to essentially keep him in line with everything else. If you need to, you can buy those upgrades and keep your core units sticking around without having to stick around and inspire them, and use this as a real utility threat that can move around the board with incredible speed, which is a rarity these days. Last for the Kingdoms of Men, we'll look at the Assassin. The Assassin is a unit type that I think a lot of Kingdoms of Men players wish that they had in the past, and now it's an available option to them. It makes sense. The thing that I like about this guy is that he has Vicious just built into the profile, so that applies to both the melee and ranged attacks that it does, and those are nothing to scoff at. So really nice, flavorful unit to get into the backlines and maybe assassinate some characters, or just throw in some additional damage on things. If you've got something that's sitting out there and already has some wounds on it and you want to just be able to force a nerve test on it, use those throwing weapons to get some extra damage and pop something off. I personally like, you know, something on a Pegasus that could probably take the Trickster's Wand, and then it's nice and high so you can cast Hex on it from the backfield and shut down some casters, but it's just another tool in the toolkit. And I like the Assassin quite a bit, and it's one that the Kingdoms of Men players I think will appreciate because now they've got a new tool to use in their toolkit. All right, now let's switch over to the League of Rhordia. And the first unit we'll look at is also a Kingdoms of Men unit. It's the Spearphalanx. These guys are going to give you a little bit of flexibility in how you take your units, because if you just pick up one upgrade, then you've got an entirely different unit. At default, they've got Phalanx, which we all know that that's an improved rule quite a bit, and with the ability to purchase Ensnare on a defense 4 unit at that, there's a lot of things that you're going to be able to shut down and have a really, you know, hard to shift block. So for me, this is a really nice option, and if you take a specific unit that has something like Radiance of Life, it could be a good thing to pair with it. So these guys aren't going anywhere, and it's really pretty affordable for the cost. If you look at something like Ensnarers, who exchange, you know, regeneration for their lower defense, it's pretty comparable, and this is a nice unit that's going to go well with the Rhordia players. So as we've seen a general change in the shift to increased options for melee, we'll look at the mounted scouts as an option for Rhordia, and these guys have a pretty similar profile to what we're used to, but one major change. They are now hitting on 4 in melee, so you've got an incredibly fast unit, which you'll see a theme here, incredibly fast unit that has the ability to get in some tight places and be really annoying. With the ability to throw out shots and having nimble and steady aim means that they can get into positions where essentially they're defending objectives and then can charge off when they're ready with that 4-up melee and still do some respectable damage, especially late in the game. So if you're annoying with them early and then using the clean up late, that's a pretty good strategy, I'd say so, for a unit like this. All right, let's take a look at the Halfling Knights. These guys are ones that make me kind of jealous, especially as a Night Stalker player. When you look at a profile for a Knight regiment at 150 points, for still 16 attacks, hitting on 4s with Nimble and Thunderous 1, that's really nice. So the way I see these guys being used is incredibly flexibly, with taking advantage of the new hill rules and being able to position themselves with that Nimble so that they can get to a hill, turn, and then be wide open to anything that they'd want to get to off of that hill. So, you know, even though they don't have the hitting power or defense as some of the other, you know, mounted heavy armored Night Hordes and things like that, in a regiment for 150 points, holy crap. I mean, you can do a lot of stuff with this, and it opens up a lot of great options as far as your speed and capability to move around the battlefield and still be nice and nimble and get to where you need to get, taking advantage of those rules as well. Okay, now for a big one. Some of you guys are going to love this and some of you guys are going to hate it, but I'm personally a fan. This is the Honor Guard. So where a lot of the units in 3rd edition saw a reduction in Crushing Strength and Thunderous Charge, the Honor Guard didn't have that happen to them. They do see a drop in attacks, but in return, they get a little bit of a nerve bump and they got a massive discount in their points. So you'll see with Kingdoms of Men and Rhordia units, these things are just cheaper than other units' counterparts, and they're still just as effective. They're going to take a little bit of skill to use, yes, but I mean, this is still a disgusting unit in my opinion. So tons of ability to put and crack open a nut, which I think that the Kingdoms of Men and Rhordia in general need. So having something like this with the ability to actually punch through high defense armies is still really helpful. Even though it's 18 attacks, I still think it's really nice because they're going to be sticking around a little bit better, especially with the rules for inspiring, etc., and the ability to have the lower price point on them. That's just something that they were really expensive before, and I think this is a really nice change that still continues to open up your additional options and take some more toys when you're building your list. Last up, let's talk about one of the unique units for the League of Rhordia, and that's the Battle Shrine. This thing saw a really nice change, in my opinion, because, you know, before where it just kind of sat around and had some lightning bolts, sure, still has that, still has rallying, lightning bolt got bumped up to 6. Also, its attacks got bumped up to 6, and crushing strength 1 on this thing means that you can use it to support all the way up until I have an opportunity to hit a flank with this thing now. Do I want to take it and help out my other units? I think that's a pretty good option. So it still rallies early on. You can throw out the lightning bolts and potentially snipe things because it's a very high unit and has a lot of capability to get some really nice angles and lanes on individuals that are hiding. And you know, watch out. There's some nice things that you can do with this, and I think that it's going to be in almost every single Rhordia list because it's that good. So hope you guys enjoyed the Rhordia and Kingdoms of Men preview. We'll be doing some more. I've got some guest appearances. Billy Smith, Billy Capgun is doing the Free Dwarfs for us, and Jesse has already filmed the Salamanders, so those will be coming up soon. I just got to throw them together and find out the day we're going to do it. Now, because we're so short to the end of December, or to the start of December, end of November, we're going to get these out fairly quickly. So I'm probably going to be doing, you know, 2 every day that we release them. 2 today, 2 Thursday. So we'll be seeing some more this week, and then they're coming hard and fast because we got to get through them before the book comes out. So stay tuned and hope you guys enjoy it and you're looking forward to the book. Thanks.